58, 59. Lost count.
Viewer discretion is advised. This show contains vaping, drinking, and vulgar language.
BattleAxTheater. That's a good name.
BattleAx, man. He brought the preach video.
BattleAxTheater.
Death from BattleAx. I don't know if you guys have seen, he just rants, and it's awesome. And he just starts screaming and yelling. I need to have a beer with that guy.
What is up, everybody?
Yo, yo, yo!
How's everyone doing this fine Monday evening?
Is it fine?
No.
Is it really?
Quarantine life sucks. Bad.
Well, it's also Monday, man.
It's also Monday. Why do we do Monday streams? Oh, right, because life sucks on Mondays, and we're here to entertain. Oh, shit.
Oh, man.
What is up, everybody? I'm Punk Shoe here. I'm with my boy, Def.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. Thanks for joining in.
Cool cats.
I stole that from Carol fucking Baskins. But
Oh, Jesus Christ. We are BattleAxTheater, and this is BattleAx Live. This is our live show where we talk about shit in video games. Stuff in video games. Apparently I'm in one of those moods tonight. But yeah, we're going to be talking about some really cool stuff tonight. It's a conversation that comes up a lot, and that is fast travel. And immersion often comes up, so I wanted to kind of take a spin on that perspective. So I guess let's go ahead and get into it with everyone's favorite segment. Well, no, not really. I don't know. This is the Weekend Rear View. It's the Weekend Rear View. Woo, doggy. All right, this is the Weekend Rear View. This is a segment where we talk about what we did last week because we are a Monday stream, not a Friday stream or a weekend stream, so we can't talk about what's coming up and what we plan to do. We got to talk about what we did do this past weekend and week, right?
yes, sir.
So, as per usual,
Well,
what'd you do last week, Dev?
I did a lot of things. At first, I thought I did nothing, but then I realized I did a lot of things. I finished Ozark. I watched Dark Side of the Ring. I used to be a wrestling fan, and Vice has a series called Dark Side of the Ring.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was telling you that night on Discord, like I really want to watch this Chris Benoit episode. So I almost finished the 2 episodes. I fell asleep during episode 2, but holy crap, man. It's pretty crazy.
Now, is this a show that's got like a bunch of different episodes that are like different stories, or is this
Yeah.
focus on the Chris? Okay.
Yeah, it's got different stories, but so I just skipped to the one about Chris Benoit because I had friends and reading posts, coming up,
Yeah.
and I just had to check it out because I remember when it broke, and WWF at the time, or WWE, I can't remember. They had a whole memorial about him, not knowing he killed his entire family.
Oh shit.
Praising him, and then they didn't get the news to actually what happened till the next day. So, anyway,
Rip.
so I did that, and then I have some. I found out I have termites. This is after having a leaky roof, so I'm new homeowner, having those issues that everybody talks about when you buy a house. That's what's going on in my life. The only good thing, I've had time to get max level on Guild Wars 2, and got a build for my Guardian.
Yeah.
Just getting my foot wet with it. I haven't really got to really get it down to muscle memory or anything like that, but it's fun. It's fun. I can tell it's going to be a powerful build.
Yeah, I know. Z sent me a message. I don't know if he told you earlier, but he's downloading Guild Wars 2. And I know,
hell yeah.
and Reeve has been playing it lately, so that's
Yeah.
awesome. It's kind of nice to see everybody kind of coming together. And you know what, man? After all this time, I'm getting a little bit tired of the game hopping thing. I'm ready to kind of settle down. I've found myself in this position where, I've been wanting to do things other than play MMOs and multiplayer games. And it's not like, oh, I want to do it because like I need to split my hobbies. Not like I just haven't felt like playing MMOs. And I think part of it has been that game hopping mentality. And I think Guild Wars, at least so far, we played it for a few months in the past, and then we took a break, and we didn't even mean to quit. We just got roped into something else, right?
Yeah, we were game hopping.
So I'm kind of I'm kind of happy to, like, I don't know. I just want to call a place home for a little bit, until one of these other ones drop.
Right on.
Anything else last week?
Nope, that's pretty much it from me. What'd you do?
Let me tell you what I did. Well, I'm going to refer to my notes here. My notes, they specifically say homeschooling kids blows, insomnia blows, but Guild Wars 2 doesn't blow.
Yeah.
So basically what I've been doing is, so my kids are home, and my daughter didn't have any like anything set for the elementary school for doing distance learning.
Oh, damn.
And because they didn't have anything for distance learning, basically like they were having to do makeshift stuff, and like everybody's kind of like out of touch. When I say everybody, I mean like teachers and stuff. So with everybody being out of touch, like there was like all this miscommunication. My daughter's sitting here doing all this stuff, like all this paperwork, and she's doing all this paperwork all day long, like longer than she's in school. And then they send us some stuff at Friday, and then over the weekend, and they're like, okay, this is what they're going to do. And then, all right, so here's one of the things. One of her teachers is I don't want to say computer illiterate because I don't want to be insulting, but she's like, I made a video in Zoom on where to go to get your information. What is this? What are you doing? Hold on.
Yo, am I back?
Yeah, what happened?
I meant to mute my volume, and the new update mutes your whole video and everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I was going to take a vape and mute it, but we'll just have to listen to it.
That's
Sorry about that.
interesting. Anyway, so she sends this video, and the link that we need to get to our daughter's schoolwork for this week is a Google Docs link. And you know what the Google Docs links look like. They're like this long, right?
Yeah.
And they're case sensitive. And instead of just copy pasting the link to the adults, we're supposed to get it from the video. So I have to sit there and keep referencing back to the video.
Oh, man.
And then after she got that set up, there was another tool that they were supposed to use, and she sends me another little girl's login instead of my daughter's. And I was like, can you please delete this message? And I guess her not knowing that, I'm actually technologically savvy, she's like, oh, I sure can. Sorry, I didn't mean to send that, but you can just hold down the long press and click delete. And I just want to be like,
Oh my God.
do you fucking think I didn't try that? Like, you're the admin of this conversation. You have to delete it.
Oh my gosh.
So, in short, guys, this is just me bitching. As a dad, being a dad is hard in and of itself. You become reliant when you have children that are homeschooled, or not homeschooled, they're public schooled. So you become reliant on those systems that are in place. You become reliant on them educating your children so that way you can focus on what you've got to do. Because I don't have any education to translate that to what a kid needs to learn. I don't know anything about the new math systems that they're utilizing with little blocks and that sort of crap. So, it's like I get the gist of it when I have to sit down and help my daughter with her math problems and stuff like that. But outside of that, like I'm not a teacher, and I don't have the aptitude to teach, or I don't know if it's aptitude. I can teach people, but yes, I lack patience. Like I have this really big thing, like when a kid and you sit with them and you work through a problem and they're able to figure it out, and you see that aha moment in their eyes, and then they go to the next problem that's a math problem or a vocabulary word or something like that, and then they look at you like with this blank look, like, I don't know how to do it. Like, dude, you just did it. Like, you did it by yourself. Like, I don't give you the answers, I teach you the process, and you did it. Like, where's the disconnect?
Yeah.
So that shit just annoys me. So yeah, obviously still the disruption. I can't go out and sell computers in a way that I used to. Everything's got to be done. I got to figure out a way to get sales online shipping. However, I got to do it. So I can't go out there and do that. So that's why I'm saying, like, this whole quarantine thing kind of sucks.
It's a mess, dude. It's a mess for a lot of people. It really sucks. I'm fortunate to be considered essential. So
same as my wife. Yep.
Yeah, medical field type stuff. It's I mean, I just couldn't imagine being in someone else's shoes where, you kind of just, hey, shut everything down and, stay home. Don't worry about your bills. We'll give you.
I understand the need for it, right? Like, we need to do it. But we have to, there has to be some sort of alternative. Like, there is an alternative, right? Like, I can list my products, I can sell them, I can not have those personal interactions, but I'd be losing out on a large percentage of growth because I can't actually have a conversation with people that are buying products. And many of my customers are repeat customers. Like, not themselves, but they word of mouth, they tell their friends, they tell their family, and I make, other sales.
And I just kind of want to make something clear. I'm not saying that I don't want people to stay home or anything. I don't know if that came off that way.
You just want to stay home.
I would love to. I would absolutely love to stay home
and get paid for it, though. Not unpaid.
But I don't get to, and when I work with, when I'm out there in the field, it's apparent that some people don't take it seriously.
It's almost like they don't get it at all.
Yeah, they don't get it at all, and that infuriates me a little bit because it's like, hey man, do your research at least. Take it serious. If you have to go out, but keep your distance. At least try to contribute. Well,
let me tell you this, dude. I'm done with this negative talk. How about some good positive news?
Let's get positive, everybody.
That's a new catchphrase. Let's get positive.
And now it's time for the Nerd News! Good evening, and thanks for tuning in to this part of the program where we discuss all things technology, comic books, film, art, and more.
All right, that's our that's. I was telling Def while that was going on. We were planning on doing other introductions to that. And I don't want to because that one always cracks me up to see him being so goofy.
Well, there's going to be others.
You know what we also need? I think we need to get some sort of, we need to get with some band friends and get some background music for these streams. Like a whole album that we can just quietly run in the background,
Yeah, okay. I can get some black metal friends to contribute.
All right, bro. Sounds good. They're just gonna
You know, that going on.
Sounds good, man.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna start off the nerd news tonight with this is where we normally talk about the comic book news or like entertainment industry, like videos, movies, shows. And one of the big ones here that is kind of neat, but it's also kind of disappointing, is Bloodshot. So, you know, a bunch of money was poured into Bloodshot. Like, a lot of people love Vin Diesel, and they were going to put this in the box office, and it didn't hit the box office because of this whole COVID thing. And so what they did was they released it early, and then the reviews came in, and the critics gave it like a 30%. And like, that's kind of shit. Like, that, like, usually if you see that, like, you're like, okay, this movie's probably not very good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that you notice also with, and I'm going by Rotten Tomatoes scores, by the way. One of the things you notice with Rotten Tomatoes is that sometimes movies will have a shit critic score. Like, I've seen movies, I don't remember which one specifically, that had like a 20 something, and then it had like a 90% review by the audience. And this is one of those cases. And that's the news for this particular movie, is that it got a 30% critic review, but 78% of the audience thought it was great. And one of the positive reviews from a critic actually reads like this. And I fucking love this because I think it's spot on when you think about Vin Diesel movies. It's a good movie. It's a Vin Diesel vehicle, which means it's dumb as hell. But it's also a Vin Diesel vehicle, so it's also fun as hell. And I agree. It's like Triple X, right, man? Like, those movies are terrible, but they're fun. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed those. The Fast and Furious movies, like, I was done a long time ago with the story, and then you just watch it just to fucking sit on the couch with your friends and just let it do its thing.
Well, I think Vin Diesel is kind of known for that too. You know, like, I'm not a big Fast and Furious guy, but I've watched the movies and they're just kind of like kick back, chill movie. You know, fast cars flying in the air, crashing, like, they get ridiculous with it. Like, at this point, they're worse than the Avengers superhero movies. They just keep coming. It's, you know, and then I think Renfell. I don't know if we talked about this on stream or off stream, but we were talking about Chronicles of Riddick. I don't think it got good reviews.
Yeah,
but
initially it wasn't really well received.
If you were a nerd dude and you watched that, like, you know, it was awesome. You know, it was good fun and it was awesome.
We had one of those like hacked satellite cards back in the day. You know what I'm talking about, where you get like all the pay-per-views. You didn't know that was a thing?
I don't.
Back before we had a way to get movies like that. Well, anyway, back when I was a kid, a teenager, a relative had that, and I could watch any pay-per-view movie, and I watched the shit out of Pitch Black.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
Pitch Black, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So, like, the first Riddick movie.
Oh, that was the first Riddick movie?
Yeah. Yeah. So then
I didn't know that.
You had Riddick, and then you had Chronicles of Riddick. So Chronicles of Riddick showcased like the story with the girl. But, you know, I was gonna say just now that I'm not gonna spoil this, but if you haven't seen those yet, they've been out for like 15 years. So
that's why I can't remember anything.
So in Pitch Black, the girl in Chronicles of Riddick was disguised as a boy. Do you remember that? And at the end of it, it comes out that she's a she.
Mm.
And then
I'm getting little tidbits flashing back.
So they build this relationship. They bond because like Riddick has like this. She's a tough little bitch, and he has a little respect for her because she doesn't fear him like everybody else does.
Mm.
And now I want to watch Chronicles of Riddick because I remember that having a pretty awesome story. But anyway, yeah. So Bloodshot, I haven't seen it yet. If you guys have seen it, sound off in the comments or in the chat and let us know what you guys thought of it. I haven't seen it yet. I will find a way to see it, and I want to watch it just because I am a Vin Diesel fan. So I'll let you take it away with the science news, bro.
I thought this was really cool, and I kind of wanted to save this, but I just think it's so cool that I didn't want to save it because the Hubble Space Telescope's birthday is on Uh, da, 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 da. The 27th, I think.
Okay.
It's sometime this month. I think it's the 24th. Anyway, it's turning 25 this month. And in light of that, NASA will let you see all the images that Hubble's been getting in space.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can go to, we'll have the link in the description down below, but you can take that link, put in your birthday, and it'll show what images Hubble captured on your birthday. I just think that's kind of neat.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, the really cool thing is that when it's this will be in the description down below as well, but there's a cool video, and it's called "Why a Space Telescope? Why should we shoot a telescope into space?" And man, it goes through like the origins of the first things Hubble's captured, and it's like a time lapse. It's real fast paced.
Okay.
And it shows everything we learn, like the mapping of dark matter, all these extra universes, and it's got visuals that shows you the graphs of, all these little dots that are each different universe, and it's just really neat.
Okay.
So yeah, Hubble's turning 25 this month, so I just kind of had to share that.
That's pretty crazy when you think about that. So it's 25. Because I remember being in, middle school, I think it was, when, here we go. We had this whole week-long thing where we were doing stuff in science, and it was presented via Laserdisc.
Yep.
And they came in with these Laserdiscs and these Laserdisc machines, which were super expensive back then, and brought them in all the classes, because in middle school we had split classes, but they'd bring them all in because of limited resources. And we watched stuff on space, and we talked about Hubble and stuff like that. And Hubble was like super new at that point and super cool, and like the whole concept of it was super cool. So I'm kind of excited to see what's going on. Do you remember the name of the new telescope that's up there? I can't remember. I bet Z knows.
I don't know, but I know that they're going to get rid of Hubble, and I know it's supposed to be some kind of special way, and then they're going to have that new and improved telescope up.
Okay.
So I don't know when or how that's going to happen, but I am curious.
The new telescope is already out there doing some imagery. I think a lot of it's been like focused on the sun and stuff like that. Well, the one that went up a few years ago. I don't know if there's another new one that's going up or not yet.
Okay. Well, I know they're supposed to be like basically a replacement for Hubble. I could be wrong.
Okay.
I'm not like a science expert or anything.
Well, you can bet your ass if there is something like that in the news, we'll have it here, because this guy over here, he's a little bit of a space nut. Sorry, I had to figure out which hand was which.
I know. I'm like I got two screens over here with us on there.
I got it flipped in OBS because of the green screen. So we don't do green screen anymore, guys. It's just too much work to set up. If you hate it and you want us to go back to the green screen, let me know. If this works for you, we'll refine it a little bit. And I think this looks pretty good. I'm pretty satisfied with it. So
It's much less work, so I'm happy with it.
You ready for some tech news?
Let's give it to me, man. I want to hear about the G57 chips inside the N52 GPUs. Give it to me.
You try so hard. I appreciate that so much. Before we get on to this next topic, guys, if there's any you want to follow along with this and you want to see any of these articles that we're referencing, you can find all those links in the description of the video. So the tech news that I have, we've talked a lot about AMD processors and Intel and the new laptop that's coming out with a mobile AMD over the last few weeks. Well, this week I want to take a step back or take a step to the side in a different direction, which I think is really cool. Going back to a conversation that we had about like Ready Player One and shit like that. I think we had it with Ren. Is Steam's latest survey reveals that more than 1 million users own a VR headset, and that's pretty significant because if you think about it, that's 1 million gamers, man. Like that's 1 million people.
What's crazy is Val and I were talking about getting a headset.
How can
a
you
VR
not?
headset.
Because Half-Life Alex is out now. Like, I want to get one so that Kay can use it to play Alex, and then I can have it to have a Vertigo episode.
Well, I mean, it's just there's so many free games out there too that that Steam has alone.
Yeah.
I haven't checked the other platforms, but I mean, you got Saturday night, you got friends over, have a few drinks and do some VRs. Hope that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Now I got to get one. It's gonna be 1,000,001 now.
So I'm not sure if you're aware, but Valve, Steam actually has this thing where you can sign up to do a hardware survey, so you can submit your hardware information on a regular basis to them, so they can get an idea of what people are using, and they distribute that information to their developers. Well, they did a recent survey, and the sleep is catching up to me. So the new survey shows, again, that 1 million users, which is 1.29% of, so almost 1.5% of their user base is using VR headsets now. And this comes on the coattails of the new VR, or the Valve Index VR headset, apparently is going out of stock on a regular basis. So it's super cool to think about this, because the new headsets, like the new configurations, require less full room VR equipment. They require less in terms of what's on your head. The technology is becoming lighter, it's becoming more comfortable, and it's becoming cheaper.
I remember when Oculus came out, and it was like ungodly high.
Yeah, it was like they had two different models. One was like 1,000, and the other one was like 1,200. But they can't, it wasn't just the headset. It had the receivers, and it had the things,
the hand things.
I think the new Valve is only like $499 or something like that, and it comes with the headset, 2 receivers, and the thingies, the controllers. And from what I understood from the Linus Tech Tips video, you can actually use it with older receivers, which I think is pretty cool.
Okay. That is cool.
I'm excited for this because, again, not only does it come down to virtualization for video games, but if you've got a headset, you have multiple applications. And I think this is really cool. If you think about this, dude, this is kind of food for thought. So I got 3 monitors right here, right? Mm-hmm. Could you imagine you got a VR headset? Why do you need to have 3 monitors? You could look this way and look at one virtual monitor, and look this way and look at another virtual monitor, and look this way and look at another virtual monitor.
Yeah, you absolutely could do that. And you could also, I think of it as that's like the new, gaming and fitness seem to be like trending these days. It used to not be that way. So it's like you get VR, man, you could be running through the forest and running away from zombies, and you can, be doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, like I've always said, so a classic MMO or something like that, I wouldn't want to be in VR. But it would be cool to be fighting goblins and orcs and stuff with a shield and a sword, or having a staff. Like, dude, when I was a kid, I'd be casting spells from my hands, all the time. Like, you know what I mean?
There's grown-ass LARPers that still throw beanbags, so. And I can't shit on them because I used to LARP, so.
I'm just saying, dude, how cool would it be to shoot fireballs from your hands? Yeah,
it would be really cool. I want full dive technology like in Sword Art Online. And if you haven't seen Sword Art Online, it's an anime. You should at least watch an episode or 2 of it just to get basically they put this headset on that integrates with their nervous system, and it basically puts you like in a coma, but you can feel everything in the virtual reality. It's not just visual and auditory, it's full senses. It's pretty sick.
Well, Z just mentioned Vermintide in VR.
Oh
shit, I would have a panic attack.
Yeah, but if you knew it wasn't real,
I don't, dude, those rats running after me, dude, I would shit, man.
He also, Z also clarified, so it's $749 for the Index headset and the controller. So the $499 that Linus was talking about, I think was just for the handsets and the headset, or the controllers and the headset, because he used it with the existing Valve things that he's had set up in his VR room. And yes, this guy has like a whole fucking area set up for VR. Like, could you imagine having a house? You're like, this is my man cave. This is my VR room. This is my office. And then this is my bedroom, That would be so awesome, man.
Man, well, 749 US dollars, huh?
That's brand new though, and there you
Brand new.
can get stuff on the used market. Like Tech Yes City is a dude that I follow, and I think it was Tech Yes. And one of the people that I followed, no, it was I watch so much tech videos, dude. Like it's all blending together when I'm tired. But one of them picked up a whole used configuration, like everything, for like $350. And granted, like older hardware has its limitations, but you know, spend $350. Say, okay, I like this. I'm willing to go out and spend my stimulus check on it.
Yeah. I was going to mention that too. I'm like, $749 is already spent.
You know me, dude. Like when it comes to tech, I have a lot of stuff that like is on the verge of the forefront. Like I don't go crazy and go enthusiast level to the point where I'm spending $10,000 on a computer. But you know, my computers and technology, they're no slouches. And I would have a VR headset, but I'm terrified that it's going to irritate my vertigo. So I'm kind of disappointed. I guess I won't know until I try it, but I'm hoping that within the next few years, they'll like kind of start to perfect the technology where it's like super high resolution and normal people don't feel woozy when they use it. And then maybe I'll be able to try it out.
Interesting. I've never tried it myself, so I'm kind of curious.
Still sort of gaming news related. I think you had some topics you wanted to talk about.
Let's see what's next. Okay. Yes, so Pantheon did their weekly stream, their dev stream. And man, they went in depth on the Shaman, and I want to start out by saying that, like, I'm pretty sure Warrior will be my main for Pantheon, but I've been eyeballing the Shaman for a while now. Like I'm like 98% sure the Shaman is going to be my alt, even based on what they had on the website. But now them going through some of the spells and stuff, you know, and their abilities, I'm like 100% sure now. Like I'm gonna roll a Shaman. I'm gonna give a go at healing, man. And you know me.
Well, I know you loved your Shaman though in EQ. Like
dude,
every time we did anything,
like it,
you busted it out. Every time Z came over to hang out, when Onyx came over to hang out, when we were playing for a while, you were like, Shaman's right there. It's healing us. It's power leveling.
Dude, my Shaman can do anything. Like, I had so many AAs. Like, you know, if it was 10 levels below me, I could tank that bitch. You know, like I loved it. The AOE slows. Of course, we don't know in full details what the Pantheon Shaman was, but it seems to have a lot of similarities. But I don't want to go, you know, too in depth on it because I want to encourage people to go watch the stream.
Mm-hmm.
But they did touch on the mastery system, which, you know, again, I don't want to go too into details about, but they kind of hint around. So first off, you'll be getting mastery XP at level 1.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of hinted in the progeny system. They just mentioned it. They didn't talk anything about it, but they mentioned it. And dude, there is a time where Napalm and I just set up and we talked about progeny system just for 30 minutes, you know. Well, it's not up on YouTube or anything. We're just legit talking about it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's just kind of cool because you don't get a lot of information on that. But they go in depth on how the mastery system will benefit your character, your spells, or I don't know. I can't recall what they officially named it or called it. Your mastery, your main mastery system. So it sounds like there's several ways you can go about spending your masteries. So anyway, it's cool. Check it out. It's the link will be in the description down below. It's on the official Pantheon, YouTube, stuff like that. It's worth your time. if you're on the fence and you're like, oh, I'm not going to play Shaman, it's still giving you tons more information about the codex, the future of the redesign of the codex, stuff like that. So it's cool. Check it out.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I liked watching like how the masters went up. And speaking of masteries, how about that Saga of Leucemia? Also, hey, what's up, Sorellen? So the new masteries, not the new masters, the new alpha access of Saga of Leucemia opened up for new pre-orders last Wednesday was when it opened up, and then they opened the server gates so all these new testers could see the world, could see the White Mist foothills. And I have to say, man, I didn't get a whole lot of playtime in this past weekend because I was busy doing other things, and I fully intend on taking advantage of that this weekend. And
Yes, sir.
that's the whole month of April. You guys will have alpha access to do some testing, to go through the first few quests that are there to explore the White Mist foothills. If you guys are interested in getting on that and supporting supporting Saga of Leucemia, we got links for that in the description. But it was pretty neat to see that, because like, you know, we were alpha testing every week, and then we got busy and we were alpha testing here and there. And then after testing here and there, we kind of like didn't test for a few weeks. So when we jumped into that test, or when I jumped into this test this weekend, and had all the buildings fleshed out and everything.
Yeah.
I know go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the same thing, dude, because we were testing with the Saga team. And then there was a while where we started prepping to, you know, get back to doing content and stuff. And then and then they shut it down in their preparation. And then we get into the stream, and then just seeing the stream that they did for the reveal is like, whoa, man. And I just got to say this. I didn't get much time in. I know you and I plan on this weekend getting a lot of time into the test. But I went to masteries that I've never tried before.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Yeah.
I don't know that I did what I wanted to do, but we'll see. I mixed masteries that aren't min-maxed, but I felt like it was kind of like a combat bard, so a battle bard. So we'll see. We'll see.
Saga's in chat now. They said it was packed, and dude, it was packed. It was packed. I remember seeing. I think I messaged you. I'm like, hey, Punk, how do I sit in Saga?
Yeah.
Because I was trying to join them at the campfire, dude, and I was trying to, you know, like hang out. And be like, hey, well, how's it going, dudes?
Well, we're going to get in on it this weekend. I want you to feel that experience that I did with the last rounds of weekend testing before the world was done in the Saga of Leucemia style, when it was all just kind of concept. And
well, you got me pumped for it the first time.
It's so cool. Like, it just feels pretty immersive. Like, obviously, as Ren said, there's still artwork that needs to be done, but structurally, I feel like it's really sound, and I think the idea is there. And once optimization and custom art assets are in place, I think it's going to be pretty sick. I mean, I think it's going to be pretty fun.
May I add something?
Yeah.
So, I remember you explaining your experience, and you know, you were mentioning the torches and exploring.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before we started streaming today, I noticed Saga put up some screenshots, and apparently they had some spies out there, and they got this really cool screenshot of people going through a path, and they all had their torches up, but the screen was captured above them, like they were oblivious to it or something. I don't know. But it looked really cool because it was like a whole group of adventurers going through the dark, and their torches lit the way of the path.
It's pretty awesome. And the thing is
pretty cool.
If you want to fight, you have to put your torch away. So you have what? You have choices. I can sit in the dark, and I can fight things I can't see, or one person keeps a torch lit.
I'll be the torch guy.
So I just thought that was pretty neat. And, you know, there's restricted group sizes of 8, and when you have a large test like this, often you get multiple groups that get together. So, I don't know. It's just cool, man. I can't wait to test this weekend. I think I should be acclimated by this weekend to this whole kids' home thing. I hope. It's been like a month now. I want to be acclimated so bad. So, again, if you guys are interested in supporting Saga of Leucemia, we have links in the description. Also, be sure to check out the Saga of Leucemia YouTube channel and check out their Twitch, because they've got some really cool streams that they do, and the streams are often recorded and then re-uploaded on YouTube. But
Yeah, definitely follow them on Twitter because sometimes a certain someone likes to do a random pop-up stream every now and then.
yeah, certain someone. So talking about
Great
immersion, why don't we move on to the meat and taters of today's stream?
All right, man, let's do it.
All right, and I swear, guys, I promise you, at some point in the future, we will have a transition segment here. So
It's the meat and taters.
we've had some really good ideas, but there's ramifications of doing the ideas that we wanted to do and YouTube's algorithm and stuff. But not either way. No, that's not here nor there. Why don't we talk a little bit about fast travel and its impact on immersive gameplay, and just fast travel as a whole. So I wanted to start this off by talking about what is fast travel. What defines fast travel? And I've got my thoughts on it, but I know we've talked a little bit about this, and you've been playing MMOs since EverQuest, and I've been playing MMOs since EverQuest Online Adventures, just before Final Fantasy 11 hit the PS2 in the U.S. markets, and I had a friend that used to play UO. So go ahead.
I just want to add this. It's funny because I was talking to my buddy Carlos, who I believe is in chat today, and I think I got him convinced into trying out Guild Wars. He's never played an MMO before.
Oh.
And I did the math. I've played MMOs for 20 years, dude. 20 years.
Yeah.
Since I was 13.
Uh-huh.
So, holy shit. So, I have a lot to say on this topic, man. It's kind of a love-hate. It's kind of a situational type thing.
Yeah.
But I'll let you continue.
Well, so and on that topic, like what you said is a love-hate. We do have a couple voicemail or texts, one or the other or both, that was left for us today. So we'll get to those at the end of the stream. So what I'd like to know, though, is like when I say fast travel, Def, I hate the fast travel. I hate fast travel. I love fast travel. What comes to your mind when you think fast travel?
Oh, man. Getting from point to point instantly.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
So just being able to get around the world without actually having to put in the hoofing it in any aspect.
Yeah, and dude, so can I go off a little bit?
Yeah.
So in EverQuest, you had the boat system.
Right.
And back then, that was amazing because it was new, right?
Right.
It made you strike up a conversation, you know? Because back then, like I said, all this being new, you know, you don't want to leave, you don't want to miss anything, you don't know, if you're going to glitch out on the boat. You may be on your way to a different, you are on your way to a different point, but
Right.
you may want to start a group right then on the boat, so you start, socializing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is cool. But so let's fast forward to WoW, which is another game I spent a lot. And you had the Zeppelins, and you have the boats in Classic, but it kind of died off. I didn't play Classic. I can't say it died off in Classic.
All right, so we've got modes of transport, right? So you've got boats, you've got airships, you had airships in Final Fantasy, you had moon gates in Ultima Online, you had druid portals. Henges. What were they called in EQ? Circles.
Druid portals.
They were
Druid circles and wizard portals.
And wizard portals. But you had to physically go to that location to use it, right?
No.
No.
No, a druid. Well, a druid will port you to a druid circle. A wizard will port you to a wizard spire.
But they can do that from town.
Yeah.
Okay. See, and we had the same thing in Final Fantasy 11 where you had teleports where the cool thing was, though, is you could not get teleported somewhere unless you had gotten the teleport crystal. In other words, you physically walked out there and discovered it. And then
I want to
now
come back on.
Yeah,
and I want to come back on that point when in the means of fast travel, getting to a place instantly.
But going back to the roots, right? We had boats and airships in both airships and, well, actually we had both in World of Warcraft. And even though you had, late game, they take the inspiration from, they go backwards, they take those inspirations from previous games. Those, the boats and stuff like that, I feel like, would you classify a boat as fast travel?
No, it's very slow.
See, I would. It's very slow, but it's still fast travel. You're getting there faster than foot.
Yeah, it does take you across the planet for sure, but that's the only in EverQuest, that was like the only way you had to go unless you got a port.
Now,
you couldn't swim across the thing. That would take days and months and years.
So UO is a little bit outside of our knowledge of gaming. Like we didn't play Ultima Online.
I did not.
You played EverQuest and I played Final Fantasy, which were similar eras. As Final Fantasy came out, started a year after EQ did. Now, several years later if you talk about the US release. But anyway, when the games first came out, like early expansions or early EverQuest, do you recall, did they have druid portals or wizard portals and druid circles? Like, was that a thing that was added in an expansion, or was that there from the beginning?
I believe, oh man. See, I didn't play till Luckland.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the wizard spires were there.
Okay.
And druid portals were there. I don't know if they had them in, I want to say they did have them in Classic, but it was just, not as many. It was maybe like the Karanas, Greater Fate Arc, and stuff like that. I do want to say they were out in Classic EQ. And anyone, Cerulean says in the beginning, so cool.
Okay, cool.
But
up,
and that was man, that was so awesome to find, a druid or a wizard to help you out, and you could tip them, and you'd end up making them, adding them to your friends list. I like what P99 has done, and they have that taxi. Do you remember the name of that guild? Because I remember when we played P99.
Oh yeah,
we had to call them.
But they had the taxi guild because I guess there wasn't a big enough population, so you could whisper somebody from that guild to come save your ass.
Yeah, well, and we had to save your ass, right? Because you fell.
Because I fell through the goddamn boat in the Ocean of Tears at level 8 or something like that. It was dumb.
Yeah. So, stuff like that's awesome.
All right, so let's go back. Let's start at the baseline. Like, we'll talk about ability travel, but let's talk about baseline mechanics. Because a level 1 can take a boat. A level 1 can take an airship. It's different in Final Fantasy because you had to get some levels and build up rank in order to take an airship. But the boats, there were boats in Final Fantasy and they were accessible. And in WoW, the boats and airships were accessible from level 1. It was just boats were Alliance and airships were Horde. So let's talk about that mechanism in terms of immersion. Like, so you say you wouldn't consider it fast travel. I say I consider it fast travel, but there's an immersiveness to it, right? Like, at least in the old school. Like, in WoW now, it's like you get on a boat and it's like hits a load screen and then loads into the next zone. Whereas back in the day, like, there was a mechanism that was built in. Like, if you took an airship, you still had that zone, but you were on an airship with 10 other people just hanging out for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes until you got to your destination. Was it the same in EQ?
That it was. You had to stay on that boat for each stop. So if you're going to Ocean of Tears, I believe, and chat, sorry, it's been so long, but, I believe you start off in Freeport, then you would go, the Butcher Block stop, and then, Ocean of Tears. I think there were several dockings in Ocean of Tears, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so that's what we left from Butcher Block, and then we got to the first stop of Ocean of Tears, and then we got to the second stop, which was like smack dab in the middle.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I need to check this out. So I get off the boat, and I go walk around the dock, and I see people fighting stuff, and I look, and I'm like, okay, those mobs are too high level. I'm getting back on the boat. And as I was getting back on the boat, I was like, oh, let me check out this empty room that's inside the ship. And I fell through the ship into the water as it was leaving.
Which is awesome to me because
I had to experience that shit.
I know, but you're playing EverQuest kind of for the first time, right? Like back then, and
you did it on purpose.
No, I just didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. But that is one thing I do miss about this. I guess this kind of falls under traveling is having to like be careful not to travel. Like, well, shit, I can't go look over the side of this hill until I you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of it kind of humbles you and puts you in your spot, and it's like, oh, nope. You know?
Yeah, I mean that's what I kind of miss too. Is like, if you wanted mechanisms of faster speed travel and getting around the world, you usually had to earn it. And the thing is when you're playing an MMO, I think a lot of people are looking for that immersiveness. They want to feel like they're in this game and becoming this character. At least that's how we used to play MMOs. That's how we used to play games like the Elder Scrolls games and Fallout and stuff like that. Like, we wanted to be immersed in these games, and then we had mechanisms that were put into place. And we started seeing fast travel first, like genuine fast travel, like pull up the map and click a point fast travel in games like Elder Scrolls and Fallout and things like that. But going back to MMORPGs, like, I feel like we want that immersion, and all this money and all this time is spent to develop these zones, and like, that's what I kind of missed, is like traveling on foot. Like, I don't want to get on a mount and travel 60% faster. Now, granted, after a while, you want that fast travel because you've become acclimated. It's just like your drive to work every day. You get to the point where you just space out that drive. But every now and again, something's happening on the way to work that you want to see, and the same thing goes for a game. Go ahead.
Well, I want to say it's one of the reasons why I think people loved EverQuest is because they kind of had a good balancing and traveling, even at the beginning, where you had druids and shamans that could give you salve.
Right.
So you went a little faster. Then you get bard speed, you know, and you could really just,
Yeah.
you know, and starting out, you know, a lot of the first 20 zones you'd probably encounter in EverQuest are kind of small. They don't feel, I mean,
they don't feel small to a new player. Trust me, they don't. Like, even Fadark when we were there, dude, like,
yeah.
It did, like, the third tune that I made to kind of dick around, but the first one, it just felt huge. Even just running from one lift to the lift that was up by Crushbone. Like, just going from one lift to the other. Like, we spent hours just killing bats and skeletons and stuff around that first elevator.
Yeah.
The first lift. And then by the time we got to the other lift, we were, like, level 8. And you know how long it takes to level in EverQuest. So we were like level 8, and it felt like it was like across the world. But really, like, when you go back on your third or fourth tune, you're like, oh, it takes like 5 seconds to walk that far.
And then we had to make that run to Butcher Block.
Which now, like, running to Butcher Block ain't no thing. Like, you know where it's at.
Ain't no thing now, but you know, when there was a time where I was playing when you weren't on, because you were having the bard, holy shit, bro.
Mm-hmm.
That was a long run, and plus I didn't have any backup, and I got killed by a beetle and had to go run back and loot the corpse. I was pissed. But
at least it wasn't stuck in a tree.
you know what I mean? Though I got killed by a beetle, dude.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah, my first experience with EverQuest Online Adventures. No joke. I made a character that was across the world from my friend who made a character, and we had to meet, and he didn't really want to travel to me. So I went that run. I ran through the areas that had mobs that were 40 levels higher than you and took boats and stuff like that. And that was part of the adventure, right? And I think that's kind of like the immersiveness is like I as a character and as a person went on this adventure because my friend wanted to be a dwarf and I wanted to be a gnome or whatever it was that I made. And I had to go from the another continent all the way over to where he was at. And I got to experience so much and see so much of the world that it kind of ignited this flame in me that was like, this is what you do when you start an MMO. You just run as far as you can. And then when you finally die, that's your first night of an MMO.
Well, let me ask you this, because I'd never played EQ Online Adventures. Was it, did you have to be careful for factions? Like your race? Like, if I was an Ixar, I could not go near any wood elves or humans. Okay.
Yeah, it was similar.
Wow.
And I actually think I was a wood elf because I remember being a bard and I was running. I don't know. I made several characters. I just know the first night. I think I tried to make a drow or something like that, or a dark elf. I don't know what they're called. But anyway, we made that run, and like, my friend who had played Ultima Online, he's like, stick to the roads. Yeah. So I was like, okay, got it. Stick to the roads. That's a spider in the road. What do I do? So then you run into the hills and you're like, that's a troll. What do I do?
Yep.
And then you finally make it back to the road. And I ran for like 2.5 hours that night, dodging aggro, and then finally died. I never made it to him. I died and I went all the way back to the starting area, and it was glorious. I hated it. Oh my God. But in retrospect, it was one hell of an adventure. And shout out to Blubbertron that's in chat here. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Well, actually, he just said something that reminded me of since we're on the subject of traveling in EverQuest. One of my favorite features was summoning. Mm-hmm. So mages have Call of Hero, or Call of Heroes, whatever. I don't want to be bashed for not getting it right. I think that was it. But dude, it was such a cool thing. So the mage could get to whatever point they needed to go to, and then they could summon the group or summon the individual, and get them there. So a lot of times, for prepping for raids, or you want to get deep into a dungeon, because back then dungeons are all open world. They could get into a spot and summon you there. So that was kind of one of my favorite aspects, and I consider that in the category of travel, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you could have a fast way to get there. Like, oh my God, they already got a mage at that point? Dude, so you would tell your friend, like, hey, there's a mage there at that camp, ready to summon us, let's go. And that would save you like 45 minutes to 3 hours.
And that probably got you groups as a mage too. So
exactly.
Let's move on to the next thing that was introduced. So mounts aside, because I think that's a given. We'll get to that in a moment, because vehicular travel I think is important to talk about. But let's talk about like true fast travel, in the sense of it makes the world feel smaller, and talk about the druid portals and stuff like that. So in terms of immersion, like your experiences when you experienced your first druid circle or your first mage portal, like, dude, what did that do for you? Like, what kind of feelings did it incite?
It was so fucking amazing. Like, I don't know if it's because EverQuest was the first MMO I ever played, or just because it was new. I never seen anything like that. Mm-hmm. But also, you got to remember, I'm 13 when I'm playing this game.
Right.
And I'm like realizing how long it takes. Dude, I would not sleep on the weekends. And if I stayed at my dad's house all week, I was not sleeping, dude. I was gaming till my eyeballs bleed.
I know that feels.
and dude, so before I even knew that druids could port, I've spent all my time running place to place, dying, figuring out where to go, where not to go, how
begging
to get
people
to
for
place.
Sal,
begging people for Sal, begging people for buffs, trying to look it up on, because back in the day you didn't have the maps in the game, having the map pulled up, like, bro. Yeah. When I first got ported, I'm like, holy fucking shit, this has been here the whole time? You know what I mean?
No, and I know what you mean, because it's like, you see people, you're like, teleport Vazel, for sale, 1k gold or 1k gil or something like that, and you're like, what the fuck is a teleport Vazel? And then you're walking through and you're on your way to Valkurm Dunes, and you see this big ass white thing just sticking out of the ground, and you walk up to it and there's this crystal and you click on it, and it's like, teleport Yot obtained, and you're like, oh, that's what these are. And then you get your teleport for the first time because you finally get 1,000 gil. And then it's just like this amazing experience, because it's like something like the first time you experienced it, like we came from playing like single player games, and I came from like, you know, RPGs and stuff like that, where like you just clicked on the town that you wanted to go to, or in Final Fantasy you just flew really fast on an airship to your destination manually, and to have to interact with another individual and then meet at a spot and then do the transaction, and then they start casting their spell, and you're like, wow, that's really neat looking, and then all of a sudden the screen goes black, loading, and then boom, you're in this area that, yeah, go ahead.
So I didn't come from any RPG back. EverQuest was my first RPG experience, period. But dude, just, oh my god, we got a druid. He's gonna port us to the Karanas. Holy shit, that's awesome. And you get excited, and you see him casting the spell, and you're like, okay, you got to get close to him. And then boom, you're getting ported, and like, oh, this is awesome. We're here. And you thank the dude. You know, it's some kind of camaraderie, some kind of like respect that a porter brings, you know. Like, and it's like beating a dead horse nowadays, you know, like a lot of MMOs have that. But back when that was new, and it took forever to get around, that was such a deep appreciation for those players. Right.
And like, I feel like those older MMOs, they tried to do something with the teleport locations too. Like when you zoned from that teleport, you were met with a Stonehenge or a massive, you know, wizard spire, or these giant teleport, like old school ancient ruins in Final Fantasy 11. Whereas in WoW, like you teleport to part of the main city that you go to train your spells anyway. So it kind of was a little bit lackluster compared to what you experienced in those old games, because the first time you experienced, even maybe that first 10 times you experienced, it's just like this sensory overload. When you get there, you go from one environment to the other, and it changes so drastically, and you're met immediately with these giant stones, or this stone circle with wisps floating around it. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah there's wisps floating around druid circles a lot now that you mention it.
Yeah, it was always I'm only going by my EQ2 experience.
Yeah, but you know, and there, it was always a cool location to where, you know, and this may not be the case, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but in EverQuest, you know, you got ported to a spire or a circle. You could always go AFK if you needed to. You know, you could be like, okay, I'm at the spire, I'm at the circle, let me go make a sandwich, you know. Because, well, I'm just saying, because, you know, back in old school MMOs, you know, there was no AFK in very much. Like, once you were engaged in something, you had to be at your computer, like, always.
Yeah, you had to have somebody watch. Well, I would say you had to have somebody watch your ass. But let's be real, you didn't need to have somebody watch your ass, because if that person was watching your ass and they were the same level as you, and then something came and attacked you, they were going to leave and save themselves.
Or die, and then you would die.
Yep. Just to think about that level of difficulty, like that's kind of crazy to think about, like that, how the level of difficulty has changed. But then you had, what was it, Luckland? They added mounts.
Luckland, they added mounts after. I remember there being a debate. A lot of people were pissed that they added mounts. A lot of people. I actually had a close, one of my best friends, his dad played EverQuest, and when they introduced mounts, he quit. Like, he was one of those people.
Flat out? He didn't give it any shot at all?
He's like, they said there would never be mounts in the game, bro, and now there's mounts. I'm done. I'm like, bro, it's the greatest freaking thing ever, man.
Yeah, that's like being like, you know, I've got a means to get a horse. It's 1856, and I can get a horse to go to the next house. I'd rather walk. You're like, I don't understand. Like, mounts have been around since like the dawn of history. Like, how is that offensive? But
I think mounts and, like you're saying, I think mounts and MMOs go together. I mean, now I don't think you should be level 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever and have a mount.
Okay.
You know, I think it comes with perseverance. I think it comes with earning it. It's kind of a bragging rights thing. Like, hey, Gotcha. I've been playing this game. I worked to max level. I did this quest, whatever is locked behind it.
Right.
It just so it's kind of like I've been all over the world. I've done it on foot. You know, back in my day, when we walked up the snow, no shoes on, or whatever that saying is.
Well, do you think
You know,
the mechanism that's put in place that makes you feel entitled, like not entitled, but like you've earned it, like back in my day, snow both ways, all that bullshit.
Yeah.
Do you think the mechanism, that mechanism was put in place? Do you think it was put in place to give you that sense of I've earned it, or do you think it was placed in a position that made you feel like that because they wanted to force you to be immersed in the world a little bit and become desensitized to it before they gave you a means of just through it?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know, because my brain wants to look at it in two different ways. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like I want to acknowledge, because when I play an MMO, we talked about it several times.
Mm-hmm.
I want to acknowledge all the hard work that's went into it. I
Right.
want to look at every flower, every mountain, hill, and I think it's deserving of the devs and the team that put that game together to get acknowledgement for that.
Yeah.
If you're on the mount, you're not looking at anything. You're just and that's at the beginning of this topic. I talked about how fast traveling and how it impacts immersion, how it could be a situational thing.
Right.
And sadly, this is really kind of uncontrollable, but it kind of falls on the player, right? Like if you got someone that's just wanting to get from point to point to point to point, they're gonna grind, they're gonna get their mount, they're just gonna go point to point to point to point,
Yeah. And I think Onyx has a good point here in chat. Will, he's basically saying that faster travel decreases the size of the world, and like instant travel even more so. It can make a world feel a lot smaller, and we're gonna kind of summarize all this and kind of break that down toward the end of the stream or at the end of this topic. But yeah, like what you were saying, like you don't want, like I don't think there are two takes, right? Like if you're wanting to just play the game for mechanics, give me a mount at a low level. I mean, we saw World of Warcraft go and say take the mounts from level 40 and drop them all the way down to they ended up ultimately allowing you to have
20.
a mount at level 1 if you had gotten an achievement.
Yeah.
The little
in all
chauffeur.
fairness, you did have to work for that.
Right, and that's the bragging right, but to have the mounts at that low of level, and then before that they started introducing movement speed skills significantly lower too, because you used to have to get level 20 before you got a movement speed enhancing ability in World of Warcraft, and then eventually they made it so that way you're getting it at like level 7 by shifting into cat form or whatever, or ghost wolf. And I feel like it's a disservice to the game itself, because again, you look at it from both angles. Like the one angle is like people have been playing MMOs for how many years now? Like who gives a shit about the world? But at the same time, like maybe that's where some of the essence has been lost,
Yeah.
Because nobody gives a shit anymore. They just want to go, what's the next objective? What's the next quest hub?
Yeah. And so, I don't know what's to blame for that. What do you think's to blame for that? Is it
I think it's the expectation.
DPS meters, or like, you know what I mean? Like there's always some other form of some kind of bragging rights. And what I mean by that, let me make my point. I think people become desensitized, like you were saying, to traveling. So back in the day, if you got a ghost form or Sal, you had this freaking advantage. If you got a 15-minute Sal buff, your ass was making you were going to take advantage of that. You know what I mean? You were going to make sure, dude, there's been times I had a Sal buff. I would log that character and log on to an alt until I knew my friends would be on. So I would have Sal. You know what I mean? You
are a Sal fiend. Like you're like, oh my god, there's a shaman here that can give us Sal. I'm like, dude, we're level 3. What do we need run speed buff for? We're literally running around hitting skeletons.
But we got a bunch of kills per second done.
Yeah, and that's accurate. So you asked what do I think kind of caused this whole mentality change, and I think what it came down to is like, think about when we started playing MMOs. for one, MMOs weren't super accessible because at the time, not everybody had a computer in their household. And you can speak from experience. You had to go somewhere else to use a computer. You didn't have, well, not a computer, but to be able to play, right? Mm-hmm. So you had to go to your dad's. And then a lot of people back then didn't even have computers. Like I was lucky in the late 90s and early 2000s to have a PC that, you know, I think I spent $700 on mine back then, and that's a good chunk of money in today's money. And I didn't even have a dedicated graphics card, so I couldn't even play MMOs. I had to wait until 2002 or 2003, I think it was, when Final Fantasy XI hit the PlayStation 2, and I was able to get that upgrade kit for it and use it. So there wasn't a lot of player base. So they wanted you to rely on other players. They wanted you to experience this world. It was really about that immersiveness. But as the genre grew, it became more accessible. People were more acclimated to it. It became less of this like pocket protector wearing nerd type game and more of this, you know, jock football player playing game. You know, people weren't afraid or embarrassed to admit they played the games. It became less about that nerdiness that we love as MMO players and fans of the fantasy genre, and more about catering to those players that just want to play a video game, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think it went to that, and then people started to really become desensitized to that whole thing. So when they went from EverQuest and they picked up Final Fantasy or EverQuest 2 or, you know, because everybody's all, you know, there's people always looking for that new thing. I think there's a feeling of been there, done that. This game had a mount. When do I get my mount in this new game? Mm-hmm. So developers started putting it in earlier and earlier and earlier because you had to get level 20 in Final Fantasy and then spend what used to be 3 whole days babying a freaking chocobo just to be able to rent a chocobo to go from one town to another. And they didn't even add the ability to summon a chocobo until like 2 expansions after I quit.
And that's what I'm saying, man. Like run speed used to be like God, you know. It used to be. It was if you got a run speed advantage, it was like the best thing ever because of the travel. You know.
I'll tell you what, dude. You didn't even get Chocobo Mazurka in Final Fantasy XI until I think 72, which is 3 levels away from cap, and that was your group run speed buff. And by then you had chocobos. But again, you had no free range open world mounting. It was, okay, I'm in the middle of a zone. I have to run to a chocobo rental place, rent a chocobo, and then I can use this chocobo for 30 minutes. So like I felt like there were mechanisms in place. And now you load up in a game like Guild Wars and they're all like, here, have your free 80 buff and your free mount. And it's like, oh, okay. And so you get these new players that pop in. And you see everybody running on a mount, and you're like, hey, how do I get a mount? And then somebody tells you, oh, you know, if you get Path of Fire, you get a free level 80 boost, and you can use that to go get this mastery, which makes it accessible on all your level 1s. And of course, you know, Onyx found that out and told us all about it.
Yeah.
And then we all went out and got our mounts and our gliders.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Will.
Yeah, appreciate that, bro.
But
like, I do think it makes the world look smaller. Because, like, when we were running around with Reeve and we were running around with Dougie and they didn't have their mounts and we were running around, it did make the world feel smaller. Like, I'll jump on a mount and I'll bang out an entire level 1 to 15 zone in Guild Wars 2 in about 30 to 45 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, when we were with the people who didn't have the mounts, I was okay with it.
Yeah.
Because we were like our own little posse, just going around, you know, and you know, on foot and taking it in and enjoying it. You know, it's just I don't know, man. It's like something we become so desensitized to.
And I was about to say, like, tell me it hasn't become your expectation when you start a new MMO. One of your first thoughts is, when do I get my mount?
Yeah.
And then when Ren said he's not putting mounts, they are not putting mounts in Saga of Leucemia. Like, my mind already started processing these complex equations of, why wouldn't they do that? What are they thinking? This is going to be detrimental to the game. Like, oh, but this is going to be awesome. We're going to be completely immersed. It's going to feel real. What the fuck were they thinking? You know?
Yeah. That's why I want to say this whole topic to me is purely situational on how people design their game. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if it's a huge world, if it takes Dark just said, Quanos to Freeport was a 45-minute run, and if you knew where you were going, and he still notes that it was dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, man. Now, if I was to get max level and make that run and had a mount, it would be kind of, it would be less dangerous, but it would be, it'd probably cut that run into, I don't know, 30 minutes, 25 minutes. So it's kind of like, if you've been playing this game forever, let's say EverQuest never added mounts in Luckland,
Mm-hmm.
and you had to make that run every time.
Such a
You
huge
would
time
need-
sink.
You would need a good goddamn reason not to make that run. Or you would have the best friend in the world to make that run with you. You know what I mean? Because after making that run 50 times, if you had some kind of incentive, if you had a mount, it would make it, hey, well, it's not going to take me 45 minutes. It's going to take some time, but I have a mount.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine a world without mounts and some sort of class-based mechanism. Like, if you think about it, all right, so let's say like the mid 30 range in Final Fantasy, there's an area that's right outside of Juno. But let's say you don't have a quick means of getting to Juno. You've somehow got to get from your starting city, which is 4 zones away, to that area and then walk there. And then on the flip side, let's say you do have a home point in Juno and the level 33 area is the zone right outside of Juno, but it's about halfway. If you were to walk that on foot, it'd take you about 15 to 20 minutes just to get to your party location, whereas you can jump on a chocobo and get there in about 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes at most. So I couldn't imagine going deeper into the world for like those level 60 and 70 parties on foot. Like that would be insane. Like it would take you hours to get there.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of my thing with EverQuest. Like, if you would have to take an hour out of your game time just to get a group
Mm-hmm.
and to get to where you're going. You would have to consider just that, before you even start really getting into it and playing. You would have to consider at least an hour just to get going, which is fun, which is awesome back in the day.
The thing is, like, one of the reasons I gravitated toward World of Warcraft and then ultimately ended up leaving Final Fantasy was because of the time investment. And Blubbatron says, I think that it's just a natural side effect of getting older and having less time available to game. And I completely and wholly agree with that.
100%.
I switched over to WoW when my son was around a year old. And the thing was, well, probably almost 2 years old. But the thing was, one of the reasons why I quit like fully was because I played a Dark Knight, and I should not have to play a healer, and I should not have to play a tank if I want to play a damage dealer. But as a damage dealer, the ramifications of that are I'm stuck in town looking for a party or trying to build my own party for an hour every night after I just worked, an 8 to 10 hour shift, and then I only get another hour to actually like play after putting in all that effort of building a party or waiting around trying to get a party. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'll completely 110% agree with that. Like mounts and teleports and instant travel, like I love waypoints in Guild Wars. It cost me 1 silver to transfer across the world, but I'll be damned I can get there like that.
Well, I kind of want to talk about that because if I had, it's I don't know, man, because let's say Guild Wars, for example, and I guess we could say ESO. I don't remember if you had to discover the point in ESO first.
Yeah, in order
You
to
did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or you could teleport to a friend that was there.
Okay.
And it didn't cost you anything.
Okay. So that's another thing. Like, Guild Wars, the world is huge.
Yes.
Like it's pretty big. And you discover the waypoint, and once you discover that waypoint, you get XP.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can travel there from another waypoint you discovered. I like that. And what I like about it is that you have to discover it first. And also, what I like about it is it's not account bound. A lot of games these days are a countdown on everything you get.
Right.
Guild Wars is that way with the mounts, all that kind of stuff. If they was to implement, waypoints or account wide, I don't know, that would kind of turn me off because that kind of takes away the fun. I know it gets repetitive, but it's like, if I want to create an alt, I have to travel this whole planet again.
I will say Guild Wars 2, I think, did it in a very genius way. Because you think about it, you're like, oh, why do we need 6 to 10 waypoints or 6 to 12 waypoints in a zone? Like, that's ridiculous. Why do I need to be able to fast travel that far? But they've incentivized it. So like Will was saying, you're getting experience to get those waypoints.
Yep.
And when you get there, it opens up a part of the map. And then you see that there's a point of interest over here. And then over here, you've got a vista that you need to get. And thus you're going and exploring that. And then you get credit for full zone exploration. And that makes you stay there longer. And I think the bragging rights thing that you get is the expertise that you gain across several characters. But by the time you're doing that zone on your 4th character, you kind of know where everything's at, and you're not having to go to all the scouts. You're kind of just running the zone. You're banging it out. You've got your mounts. But at the same time, again, it's still incentivized. And while you're doing it, all these dynamic events are happening throughout the zone, and you're out there helping other low-level players that are doing it for their very first time. I think that's pretty amazing. They do such a good job with a lot of this, togetherness. They make you kind of feel that immersion.
Well,
what feels unintentionally, but it's intentional. But go ahead.
And I'll say, it was kind of cool when I was first playing Guild Wars, going to get our waypoints. We figured it out. You got, it's a different, I've said this 1,000 times to you, it's a different, excuse me, style of grinding. You got to discover your vistas, which gives you an awesome view.
Yes.
And Joppa admitted this, one of the creative director of Pantheon. He mentioned this feature, and I thought that was really cool. But, you get your vistas, and it kind of shows everything you've been walking around, everything you've walked through. It gives you a good pan view of it. And you're like, whoa, I just walked past that giant skull that's sticking out of the wall.
And you didn't realize it was a skull. You just thought it was a rock. And then you get the aerial view, and you're like, oh, that's badass.
Exactly. Or there's been so many times that's a spine of a dragon, something like that, So you get your waypoints, you get your vistas, and then you get your hero points. So this whole time, you're actually going through everything that these devs have worked on. You're taking in the whole entire zone, and it doesn't feel like grinding. It feels like an adventure, really.
Yeah.
And so I think you're spot on when you say Guild Wars did it in a genius way, because honestly, I would hate the waypoint system where you can click on it and fast travel to it. But the way Guild Wars did it, I think it fits. I think it's perfect.
Didn't like it in ESO. I didn't like the system in ESO. I felt more comfortable running around on my mountain hanging with my boys than hitting the waypoints all the time. And the mechanism they had there wasn't all that bad. But then when you figure out that you can join a party with your friend who's half a world away and then just right-click and join your friend, it takes you to the nearest waypoint near them, and then you just run around and get all the way. It's like a quick collect thing, and they only had 3 or 4 per zone usually. I don't know. It just didn't feel as fluid and intentional. It felt more like it was there as a mechanism, but it wasn't as refined.
Yeah.
So let's shift this conversation away from MMOs and multiplayer games for a moment, and let's talk about single-player games. I don't know what kind of experience you have in that department with single-player games that have fast travel, but like I said, I used to play Elder Scrolls games. Fallout 3 had fast travel capabilities. There were a lot of older top-down isometric style games that had fast travel. You had Diablo that had portal mechanisms to get back to town. Town portals, I think, was one of the earliest things that I was introduced to in terms of fast travel. So from a single-player element, what are your thoughts on fast travel whether it be mounts, whether it be instant teleports, whether it be a commodity like a town scroll portal that is in short supply when you first get started. Like, what are your thoughts on those?
Well, I want to ask chat that same question because personally, I haven't played a lot of single RPGs, to be honest with you. Now,
Okay.
I have played Path of Exile. That's not a single player game, but it does have the Diablo system. I'm trying to think of a game I would have played that implemented that. But I would think that I would like, if it's something I would work for, like a mount, if it was something I was achieving to get, I think that would be awesome because I'm not really playing an MMO. I'm playing a story to get to the end of the game.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so you're playing a role-playing game, an adventure-based game, and you start off and you're doing your little newbie trip, and then you come across your first town, and then you get your side quests, and you discover small settlements and other major towns, and now you're halfway across the world, and you end up discovering some sort of reference to something from the beginning of your gameplay, and it's a quest or an Easter egg, something like that, and you need to get back to a town or a city that was 3 towns or cities before where you're at now. And when I say, 3 cities, I'm talking about like extensive distances. As a single player, would you want to just go, okay, I've made it this far, I just need to grab that real quick and then pick back up on the main story? Would you rather have a mechanism that said, click, load screen, I'm there? A mechanism that you have unlock through story mechanics, that you go to it, you visit it, there's like a 2-3 minute kind of cut scene where like maybe you could be exposed to like battle mechanics or other story, or there's chance offerings there, or an NPC that could show up that on a rare occasion? Or would you rather have it where you have to jump in a Jeep and drive back to the 3 previous towns?
Whew, you laid a lot of options on me.
But those are the typical 3 mechanisms that you do see in larger scale, like RPGs and things like that. So would you rather have a Grand Theft Auto type feel where you have to drive to your destination?
That would probably be the one. I think just a screen teleport, boom, I'm there and boom, I'm back. I mean, because then you can't like make up for your mistake. You know what I mean? That's not something you can be like tell your friend like, hey, whatever you do, don't miss this side quest or you're gonna have to go off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So probably at least some compensation of like fast travel vehicle or something.
Well, let me tell you the story of Fallout 3, and this is just a brief story. I never played a game that had click to just get somewhere mechanisms. And I'm halfway through Fallout 3, and I'm running around. Every time I need to go back to a location, I'm going back to location. One day I pull up the map and I realize I can just click on the town and I can fast travel there. I can fast travel to that location. And then that was the fucking best thing since sliced bread in a game where the map felt massive and you had already invested 40 hours into the game, and like now you can save so much time. But as a player now, what I'd rather see is some sort of thing that is more realistic. Because like in real life, I can't really, I got to get on the interstate and go to work, and it's a 20-minute drive, 45 in traffic. I can't just instantly teleport to work. But what if I could get on a bus and multitask on my way to work?
Exactly.
And this is something that a Facebook friend of mine, Kazi, said. He said he played Fallout 2 and he liked the bus mechanism that was there. So you could take a Jeep and you could go to the different points. But apparently there was a bus that you could also get on as well for your fast travel. And I really like that idea. If there were some other things, like I wouldn't want to do it if I'm just sitting on that bus while it rides around. But if I'm sitting on that bus and different types of characters can come into that bus while I'm sitting there, and maybe somebody tries to rob the bus, or maybe somebody tries to kidnap me or rob me, or maybe just somebody sits across from me and strikes up a conversation, and you find out it's like an achievement NPC or something like that. Like I think that would be really cool.
That would be cool.
But I couldn't see myself, dude. I hate going from Sandy Shores to the main city in GTA. I just feel like it takes far too long. And then like when we play online, like I know you can kind of queue up for things, but when we first started, we thought you had to drive to the locations. And how many locations did we miss events for because we had to drive all the way across that damn island?
Yeah.
And we get there and it despawned like 2 seconds before we pulled in.
Well, I mean, if you have a fast car like your boy, you know, we had to load up
your car's
in your
fast, but you do
four-cylinder
wreck it all the
truck.
time. Hey, it was an 8-cylinder truck. It was just big and heavy, and I don't have all the upgrades.
Well,
God damn it.
You had the only vehicle that would fit 8 people.
No, Marquez says something here that's really cool that I want to bring up in Final Fantasy. Always thought that it would be cool if while traveling on a boat that it could be attacked by pirates or a sea monster and have to defend it. In Final Fantasy XI, they actually did have that feature. If you took a boat, not only could you fish from said boat, but you had a chance that it would be attacked by monsters, and some of those monsters, if they attacked, you could get rare drops from them. And then you had a chance that it could be attacked by pirates, and if it got attacked by pirates, there was another rare drop from those pirates because they were rare occurrences. So people would go just ride the boat and fish all day until they either fished up the sea monster that they had to fight, or it got attacked by pirates, undead pirates.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool concept. I really liked that, and that's what I mean. Like adding components to the fast travel, so that way, like if you're going between those cities, maybe like you jump on a train, and like Red Dead Redemption sort of style, like you jump on a train and you're not instantly able to travel from one town to the next, but you actually legitimately ride that train for 10 minutes, and you look out the fucking window, and a fucking posse of bandits is about to rob the damn train, and you can either help them rob the train, or you can stop them from robbing the train, or you could just jump off, like, you know, like.
Yeah, or even when
cool.
you get to your destination, what if there's a pack of gang, you know, waiting them up as soon as you get off?
Yeah,
that'd be kind of cool, you know, some kind of consequence for the fast travel.
Yeah, I mean, cool. I don't know, like I just don't feel like instant. Like back to what Blub was saying, like I think it makes sense in a time saver. Like if it's your second playthrough of the game, I don't know why you would want to ride the train every time or why you would want to ride the boat every time. But at the same time, like maybe you might meet that NPC earlier in the game than you did the last time. You know, so like that's what makes a game have replayability. So I just kind of want to wrap this topic up though, and kind of bring it back to the true meat and potatoes about what this is about tonight. And I want to know your thoughts. What are your like final thoughts when it comes to fast travel? What kind of impact does that have on immersion in gaming, and how developers actually make changes to games or make design decisions when they create a game?
Well, I'm kind of fanboying here. You know, I really like the way EverQuest 1 did it. I don't know if it's because that's what I grew up into, but I like community-based travel where, you know, you have your portals. You have to, you know, reach out to somebody and be like, hey, man, I need a port. However the means gets to that is however it's done. But some kind of form, you know, buffs, run speed. I'm a firm believer in mounts. I don't care. Like we said towards the beginning of when we were talking about this, I think that just goes hand in hand. Any fantasy you read, I mean, you at least have a horse, man. You know what I mean? And that's my personal opinion. A lot of people may hate mounts. And aside from my final thoughts, I gotta say, when WoW came out with flying, that was fucking cool. That was awesome. To look down, okay, I know I'm going to get roasted here, but to look down and look at, oh my God, I was running all that shit, you know, like, wow, I just passed a whole day's worth of work right there, you know, like, I guess to look at it from that perspective is kind of cool. However, I'm not a big fan of flying mounts. Now,
so you like that first experience, but you don't think it's necessarily
I
good
can
for a
see,
game.
yeah, I can see how I can see how it crippled the community and appreciation of immersion and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just believe that you should work for it. You should travel the world. It should be tough. You should go uphill both ways. And I really do believe that it gives you a sense of appreciation. So when you do get a mount, you're like, holy shit, I earned this. I
Yeah.
don't think mounts should be given out willy nilly. I don't think it should be locked behind something easy. I don't think you should just get max level and just be given the mount. I think in some form or fashion you got to earn it because traveling is just, it's part of an MMORPG. It's part of exploring and it's part of that feeling you get when you're going place to place. So I'm not a fan of click traveling. I'm a fan of earning some form of run speed, basically.
And with terms of immersion, like let's say there's a newly announced game that's going to come out that's a multiplayer game or a single player game, and they discuss their mechanisms for moving around the world. What do you think from a developer, you can incorporate your thoughts into this, but when you're talking about developers themselves and what they have to account for, and when they're developing a game in terms of appeal, but also balancing that, like with their design, like, do you think? I guess the best thing I can say is Saga of Leucemia removed mounts because they want to see that immersion.
Right.
But then you see a lot of games that come out, MMO or otherwise, where almost everything has some sort of instant fast travel where you can get around the world. I believe Witcher 3 had that as well. Most of the Final Fantasies I think do now too, where you can just click a button and get around. So do you think that it's had a profound impact on the industry, and that developers have to make cognitive decisions when trying to design a game? Or do you think they can just do whatever they feel is right for their universe and their environment, and no matter what, depending on their player base? Go ahead.
I think it's situational. I think it's how they design the game. I think it's how the mechanics and the story is presented to you in that game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, we've alpha tested Saga. White Mist Foothills is huge. You see something from a distance and you're like, oh, I'm going to check that out. Oh, it's been 47 minutes. But at that time, it's cool. Now, here's my thing, and I'm not hating on Saga or any other game. But if I was to make that same journey 100 times,
right?
You know what I mean? That's where I would want like a little conversation out, or make friends, with someone in the community that's a bard or has something like Sal or something like that to make that journey worth it, because and again, I'm just saying on repetition, on the same journey.
Yeah. Like stuff you see on a regular basis, you become desensitized to it. You don't want to spend 15 minutes running through that every time. Or in your case, as Drax said, everything is 47 minutes away. So you don't want to spend 47 minutes seeing that same thing every day of the night when you come home from work and you want to get a party.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't want to say that I don't appreciate it because, again, I'm about no mounts. But I'm about earning that mount as, like max level or something like that, I think it's a good incentive to work towards,
Right. So
if you don't like a mount, don't get the mount, dude. Just keep walking on your legs.
You got a point there. They could just keep walking. Yeah. They don't have to use the mount.
Right.
So I guess that really, like, ultimately, I think that's you're hitting the nail on the head there. I think it comes down to who your target demographic is. Like, you got kids that want instant gratification. You're going to give them instant gratification in the form of quick travel. But if you want to build an immersive environment, you have to choose your balance of immersion. You have to choose your execution. And when you're talking about an MMORPG that's designed to engross people for thousands of hours, like how do you incorporate a mix of these things so that way when a player becomes a veteran, they can still get around, but you still want them to experience the experience. And going back to the going to work situation, like you are going to drive to work every day when you have to go to work, and you're desensitized to that, and the powers that be are not giving you an instant teleportation mechanism. They are, things that are happening in the world around you are what makes that drive different every day. Yeah. And I think that's what's important in development. And I think we'll see that more now. We talk to people in the different industries, and we hear about the developments of AI and dynamic events, world bosses spawning in a zone, and then 3 days later they don't spawn in that zone, they've just traversed to another area. And we've had conversations in Pantheon Plus's green room. Sorry, you got something?
Oh, I was going to say that's something about older school MMOs with slow traveling. You kind of had that thing like, what's going to happen, Yeah. Like an example is North or East Karana. There's a named Griffin. I'm sure someone in chat could tell me what that name is, but I think it was for the Druid Epic. But it was so stupid rare, dude, that you could be. It took a minute to get in any Karana zone. It took a minute to get from one side to the other, but there was a moment where that thing could spawn, little things like that. So, again, back to being situational and how the immersiveness, like how is that going to be implemented in the game?
I think it goes back to what we've kind of been pushing lately, and that is let the devs make their damn game. If a dev wants you to be immersed, they'll make sure that you have a mechanic that keeps you immersed. If they are targeting a certain type of gamer, they're going to do it. And if their environment doesn't work with that mechanic, they're going to make those changes in sequels or other games. So, yeah, it's totally situational. Well, I want to go ahead and wrap this up with, we've got a couple of voicemails on the topic that got messaged to our voicemails or text. I think they're texts that were sent to us, and then we've got a rant that we've been saving for a couple weeks now. So you ready to go ahead and get into our voicemail up segment, Def?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do this.
Oh man, this is such a juicy rant topic.
I'm sorry.
Hello?
But the person you called
Hello?
has a voicemail box that has not been set up yet. Goodbye.
Oh, what the hell, guys?
Voicemail, texts, and assholes.
All right, this is our sex. I just said sex.
Ooh,
I'm going to say text and voicemail. This is our sexy section. This is our voicemail, text, and asshole section, where we take your guys' texts, your voicemails, and videos that you send to us with regards to topics that you'd like for us to discuss. This can be anything, and typically it seems to pertain to what we're talking about. So we've got a couple here. Do you want to start, or do you want me to start off?
Let me start with the one I got through Discord.
Okay.
Give me 1 second, though. I need to do this. Oh, goodness. Button.
All right. You got it or not?
I got it.
Okay.
Give me... Here we go.
Okay.
This comes from Omega Contagion. I like fast travel, but only in certain situations. Traveling from, say, main city to main city through some form of teleport is great. Or... Lost misplaced buttons. Sorry, guys.
Fucking chat over here.
Or using a boat to cross a different continent is great. Where I hate fast travel is when it's combined within some sort of dungeon finder. ESO is horrible for this. Fast travel within the same zone is also overkill. I think WoW Classic / Vanilla Fast Travel Griffin Taxi Service was spaced well. Retail WoW has far too many. ESO also has too many. I think if there is a certain main point in the world that we're connected through, teleport would be fine. And then if you want other kinds of teleports, either through through a consumed item or a class power would also be fine, but those skills have long cooldowns and items consumed are hard to come by and expensive to craft / buy. Now, I kind of want to touch on something. He mentioned the griffins in WoW.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of funny because if you would have to get the flight pass, right? And then if you had the flight pass, the further away it was, the longer it took. But you could get on a of course, I didn't play Classic back in the day. I don't know about the boats, but you could get on the Zeppelin, and it would take like 10 minutes to get across the continent.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of
I just feel like the mechanism... So, the classic MMO mentality was time sink, right? They wanted you to play more because in the United States, we have 30 days of game time that equates to like 5 days of game time if you are a 40 to 60 hour a week individual with a family. You're actually only getting to play 5 of those 30 hours, where like the rest of the world, if you buy 30 hours or 30 days, you get 30 days. So the time sink is the big thing. They want you to not accomplish a whole lot, or didn't. This is that old school mentality, until you found ways to get around those time sinks. And I think that's kind of redundant. Like, go get a flight path. Okay, now you can take the flight path. But at the same time, it was a means of getting around a whole lot quicker because I'm not sure if you're aware, but in Classic, you actually ran the default speed was like 15% slower than what it is in modern times on foot. And it did the same thing in Final Fantasy. So you move faster just on your feet. And then you move, it might be 5%, not 15, but I know there is a speed difference. But I don't want to spend too much time on individual voicemails. I kind of just want to address what they're saying. So, I think we talked a lot about this already. Is like, what Omega is saying is like he doesn't mind like the teleports and things like that require expensive items and that involve player interactions. What he doesn't like is the convenience things that are in place, like in ESO and Guild Wars and things like that. Like, why do we need 10 teleports in the same zone so I don't have to walk at all, basically? So I can totally understand that. And again, we discussed this and analyzed it a bit, and you guys should be aware at this point of what our take is on that. But that's a good opinion. I think that's a lot of people's opinions who come from the classic MMORPG genre, is that they feel the exact same way as Omega. Now I want to read a comment or a text from Z here. He says, I think fast travel is an important thing in modern games. As an example, I think Borderlands 3 takes it too far. It allows you to fast travel from any location at any time to any hub, no restrictions. I think you should have to find a hub to fast travel to and from. And I believe that fast travel is, while immersive, is detrimental to the experience as a whole. And that's kind of my take on it. And this is what we had just said, was that having a bus, a boat, a train, some sort of thing that took you from one hub to another hub or one town to another town, and then adding elements to it to keep you entertained and engaged during that process is like a perfect blend of what's needed to maintain immersion. And that true, genuine fast travel, when just put in for the sake of having fast travel, like in Fallout 3, I think that really does kind of kill the dynamic of the game, because the game felt so much bigger before I discovered that I could fast travel. So I think that is kind of important. And go ahead.
Well, it's kind of cool because even in the next message we're going to read, just to see different perspectives and how some of the same things we were talking about. It's just cool to see other people feel the same way in some of these points.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Now, since you're going to be doing the rant for us today, do you want me to go ahead and read this last voicemail or this last text?
Go ahead.
All right, cool. Drac Attack says, fast travel, yuck. Fast travel, like flying mounts, ruins the epic feel of the size of your world. As much as I hated waiting for that stupid boat in EQ, it made the world feel like a real world. So many conversations had as you passed through Ocean of Tears. Make me travel through zones and see other people grouping as I do so. That makes the world feel alive. And then that's kind of where I'm in an agreement. And again, going back to that whole trains, boats, etc. There needs to be something in the game. Like, I love my flying mount just as much as anybody else. I love to show off my dragon. I want to get my dragons or my sky scale in Guild Wars, just like any other player. But that comes from a mechanic standpoint. That comes from me playing that game for an extended period of time. And the game was not built around boats and trains and buses where you have 10 or 15 people waiting together and you're having those conversations. But even as a veteran player in Final Fantasy, if the means from getting to one continent to the other was through a means of like slow fast travel like a boat, I think that was probably my favorite. It was like just having those conversations, or your level 60, black mage riding a boat with a level 10 guy that has no sub job in Final Fantasy, and a big squid, what they call a sea monster, pops up on the boat. Not the rare one, but just the regular one. I can walk over there and start blowing it up, and that level 10 is like, whoa, that's super cool. Like, how do I get that? How do I unlock that job? Like, it's just, that bit of showing off, that bit of interaction, that socializing that MMOs were built around. Like, I think that's super important.
It is.
So do you have any thoughts on any of these voicemails before we move on to our last segment here?
No, like I was saying earlier, I just think it's cool to see everybody's point of view from fast traveling and how it impacts the world and how they think it should be implemented. I think we're all kind of in a agreement in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think like all of us have some sort of appreciation for the convenience, but at the same time, we also have a major appreciation for what it means in terms of immersion and what it means in the world, especially with regard to MMORPGs, which is the majority of our viewers. But I also think in a single player game, it really makes the world feel alive too. So I think those are all good talking points. So we're going to go ahead and move on to one of our favorite segments. Here we go.
The bill, and holy shit! And for the love of all the gods that have ever existed, son of a bitch!
She turns into a
Edit.
dragon.
And you're holding up the group, Larry. God!
Let's just get into it.
Okay, so this rant is kind of a lengthy one, so I'm gonna try to get through this. And it comes from Hoye, and it's a PvP rant. And he starts out by a famous quote I've said on our channel quite a bit. So it starts out with, "Son of a bitch." Let me tell you what really pisses me off. PvP immaturity is bullshit, and it kills PvP and kills servers. Okay, Hoye, I agree with you, but I might be a victim of being the immature part of the PvP community, and I'll explain that here in a minute. So let's move on. He goes on to say, "I love PvP. I love it so much, I will initiate fights that I will 99% lose. I'll do it for the 1% chance I can pull off something awesome and win. Maybe 2 versus 1, 3 versus 1. Somebody that's 5 levels higher than me, a class that can easily wipe me, etc." Oye, I'm with you. I was just telling Punk the other day how I was owning 2 people at one time on my in Guild Wars. So I get you, and I do that all the freaking time. It's such an amazing feeling when you go into that kind of challenge and you win. So what happens all the time is when I lose a fight and I was clearly expected to lose, I then get teabagged and corpse camped forever by a dipshit who now suddenly thinks he's the baddest bitch in the world because he killed a greenie/gray. Pisses me off even more when he just deliberately camps me to repeatedly kill me over and over. Hoye, I would never do that, and I agree with you on that. That is I have standards. I'm immature sometimes in PvP. If I see someone I want to kill, I focus in on them and I kill them. But I would never scoop that low. So he goes on, and I want to reiterate that this is Horier's rant, not mine. And he goes on to say, WoW is the absolute fucking worst, all caps, for PvP griefing. You must res 5 yards from your body. When you do, you have to you res half health and then have to get 2 shot by the asshole camping you. Or you get some dipshit level 60 grieving lobby zones like Red Ridge. A level 60 killing a level 20 is not PvP, all caps. Now that I don't think I've experienced. Is that classic WoW?
That's any PvP server. It's...
Oh, okay, I got you.
So yeah, I quit. I left the PvP server because of that, but continue.
Gotcha. I have no clue how the hell WoW relates to PvP servers like that because it's ridiculous. There's been times when I simply could not play the game because the griefing was so bad. Literally couldn't even get a hearth off before being grieved again. There's got to be level caps, or at least until you hit in-game zones and open those. Keep it somewhat reasonable. You can't attack anybody 6 levels lower than you or something. There's really no fun or challenge killing somebody who is clearly not even going to have a chance. There's no reward to it, nothing to gain, so just don't do it. There's a human on the other side of that computer just trying to chill and have a good time, and you prevent that by being a dick. He goes on to say, I just want some good PvP. When I PvP, I generally don't gank people mobs unless they are really hard to challenge for me. I /bow to people after the good fight, win or lose. I don't continually kill people over and over. I got them once. I got my reward /honor. I got my feel good. I'm not that. I got that guy. It's done. If he wants to go back questing, then let the fishy go. If he wants to call his buddies and 2v1, then let's go too. I absolutely love getting PvPers together and getting impromptu 1v1s going, or something where it's really just true skill. Player versus the players. Anyways, just stop being dickheads on PvP servers. That's why you see every WoW server huge population issue where there's only all Horde or all Alliance. Now, you got nobody to PvP against, and you grief them for hours, which I think people like that should be banned. That was a lengthy rant. Had to read it. But, man, I have to agree with him. And as I was reading that, I was like, man, I'm kind of that guy. I'm kind of the guy that's like, the reason I PvP is for the competition. But as he went on to explain the griefing part of it, I get him. Like, that's, you got to have some standards at some point, But at the same time, if you're rolling a PvP server, that's kind of what you signed up for.
Here, let me tell you my thoughts on this. World of Warcraft has some of the best PvP that you'll ever experience within arenas and battlegrounds. When it comes to open world PvP, you're basically PvPing in a PvE element where it's fundamentally flawed. So take into consideration Warhammer, which, we played a little bit of. I played quite a bit of it for a few weeks, and I PvP'd a lot there. And you could go into zones with max level players at level 16, and everyone was scaled to the same PvP level. And that's where the fundamental flaw is. There is no reason. There is no reason. If you're Horde versus Alliance, you are faction battling. What is that level 10 doing to you as a level 60? Not a goddamn thing. Why are you killing them? And if you are killing them, why are they not allowed to have a fair shot at defending themselves? And that's where the disconnect is. And Ultima Online, what they did, and I think other games have executed this as well, if you keep griefing a player, every time you kill, BDO does this, if you kill a player that is outside of your level gap or whatever bracket, you will be flagged. And in BDO, I think after it's like 10 kills, you actually become flagged to the whole world to kill you.
Mm.
Because I don't know if you remember, but BDO, once you hit a certain level, everything's PvP.
Yeah, I don't remember. I didn't play it as much as you, but I got to that point right where I was about to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think about that, and it took me a minute to realize that Hoye was ranting about PvP servers, not just PvP,
Mm-hmm.
in general. And wow, and I gotta say, I'm a huge PvP fan, but I've never played on a PvP server, and I think that's because I love PvP and I know what I would do. It's like, oh, there's a level 14 running. I'm gonna admit it right now. I'm kill you if I can kill you. Just sorry, buddy. You're on the wrong faction. You know what I mean? But like you said, that creates people running the same. It imbalances the popularity. Of the game.
And this happened recently in Classic, where you had the skew was so bad that you had full alliance, almost full horde, and those other factions, the opposing faction that was rolling those servers, couldn't accomplish anything at an endgame because they'd have trains of the other faction killing the same poor dude over and over again. And I think that's where the issue is. So in Warhammer, you have a PvE zone, and then you have a PvP area within that zone. And once you cross over, you get flagged. And it's not like WoW, where like if you leave that area, you unflag really quick. Like it takes like 15 minutes, it seems, to unflag. So if you leave that PvP area, you are flagged for world PvP. And you made that cognitive decision to walk within that area to get flagged. And now you are running around. But at the same time, those PvP objectives were typically important because that is the focus of Warhammer Online is faction battle. So you had everybody playing that gameplay type. And it was really great because you had your PvE side if you just wanted to take a minute, relax, and do PvE. And then you had the PvP when you want to be engaged. But it's all up here, right? Like you're ready to fucking go. Like you're like, okay, I'm ready to PvP. Whereas I'm running through Stranglethorn Vale at level 30 something on my Shaman, and I suddenly got a shit. So I hide in a bush and I lay down, but of course, it's not immersive. Like people can see your fucking name tag. So I go take a shit and I come back and I got killed. And I was like, dude, I had to poop. Like, what do you want me to do? So I came back, ran back to my body, and I don't agree with Hoye on this. You can definitely spawn further away on your body. There are ways, as Reeve would say, get good. Find ways to res in a way that you can get away. Corpse hop if necessary. That's just part of the flawed mechanic of WoW, but it is there. It's something that we do, in open world PvP when you flag, or you decide to play on a PvP server. Like, you get used to trying to find a safe spot to res. Like, you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just how it is. So, well, let me finish here. So,
go ahead.
I come back, I res up, and then I was like, okay, well, I've been shitting, and then I got a drink, and then I finally got back to my computer. So, dude's probably gone. I res up, and shit you not, pun not intended, I walk like 10 feet, and this motherfucker was a rogue. Dead. One shot me. He was a level fucking 60 rogue, killed my level 30 ass. And then I was like, what the fuck? So I kept doing like the corpse hopping thing, trying to get back to like a town so I could go to another area to quest. And I'm seeing them do this to other people and camping other people. So I call my people in that I used to work with when I worked at Best Buy. And I was like, there's this dude picking on me. So they rolled in with their 60s and rolled in like 3 deep. And they were like, don't fuck with my friend. Because that's what makes a PvP server there, is having friends, right?
Yeah.
They kill him, and then what does he do, man? That motherfucker gets on his alternate faction and starts cursing at us and bitching us out after he killed me. Like, there is just no honor in this, man. Like I said, it is fundamentally flawed. But anyway, I'm done with my rant on fucking shitty WoW PvP servers.
Dude, and that's what I want to talk about. Like, I've never played on a PvP server, and I'm conflicted. I kind of want to do it now. I want to try it out for this reason, like you just said, you had your friends come on and back you up, and then talk shit. Then he got so pissed he had to come back and talk shit on that faction.
It's
Like-
just sad, man. It's just a sad way of things.
But your story reminds me of a Viva La Dirt skit where the guy's trying to do a quest and he's like, skip, 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 because there's a stealth rogue that keeps killing him and won't let him get the quest. You know, and he's like, skip, 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 skip. And then, you know, the rogue comes out like, oh, you want a quest? And you're dead, you know.
Fucking
Like, that's what your story reminds me of.
I love Viva La Dirt, but
Yeah,
dude, that ruined PvP for me because I used to PvP on text-based games. Final Fantasy never had PvP, and then I get in there and my first like serious tune on WoW was on a PvP server, and that shit happened, and I quit and went back to PvE, and I've hated PvP ever since until I started playing fucking Warhammer, and then that got you back into Guild Wars 2, and it made me want to play Guild Wars 2, and the PvP that, you know, the couple matches we did was tolerable.
yeah.
Like, I enjoyed it. I actually had fun, and it just breathed new life in it because it's a proper execution. But I'm sorry, I'm still ranting.
Yeah. Dude, I will say if I had my Guardian build in Guild Wars 2 and they had a PvP server, I would be willing to try that shit out.
Fair enough. Well, and then we've got that world, so.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
that's a topic, and we've been talking a lot about Guild Wars. We're gonna have some Guild Wars videos, I'm sure, guys. I can't make any promises, but I think that's probably gonna happen. I think it's getting about that time, though, man. I think it's about time to start wrapping things up here. Shout out to everybody that's here. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming and hanging out with us tonight. You had something you want to add, Def?
Oh, I just want to give that rent 3.5 flying mounts out of 5.
I don't know how to take that. Is that good or bad? Because on one hand, it pisses me off, and on the other hand, I really need that time saver.
Well, you know what? It's good to most MMO developers, so
there you go.
That's what the people want.
All right. Flying mounts and Pantheon, guys. Let's do it. All right, guys. Well, again, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We had a wonderful conversation about fast travel, whether it be mounts, class mechanics, or mechanisms throughout the world that allow you to transport from one place to another, and how they kind of impact immersion. I know we got off on a lot of tangents, so thank you all for hanging out with me and Def, because Def's important too. But
I'm here.
Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Be sure to check us out on social media. We are on Twitch. No, we're on Twitter. I'm going to bed after this, I think. We're on Twitter, BattleAxTheater, no dashes, no spaces. We're on Facebook as well, the same thing. You can also give us a call at 725-333-2285. Leave us a voicemail, shoot us a text message. If you do text us or leave a voicemail and you want to get a shout out on stream, be sure to leave your name so we know who you are so we can give you a shout out on stream. Anything else that you want to add, bro?
Yes, I want to hear your voices. Leave us. We get some text, but I want to hear some voicemails. Like, give it to us. You know, if you got something you want to rant about, all you got to do is call the number, hold the phone like this, and yell into the phone, and give us a rant, or get deep. Get a deep emotional connection with us, man. Tell us why you hate PvP. You know, leave us a good little voicemail. That's just a personal request. Other than that, I just want to thank everybody once again for coming out and supporting us. It means a lot.
Yeah, you guys are great. And like Def said, please leave us some voice messages. We would love to have some stuff to play on air. And maybe that'll encourage us to maybe get into some live calls later on. I don't really know. I can't promise anything, but it's something that we never really get voice messages, and I've had several people say in the streams that it's a lot of pressure. You're not going for a goddamn Oscar, guys. just give us a call, man. We want to hear your lovely voices. But we really appreciate you guys coming out, and we will catch you guys same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard, next Monday night. Later.
Thank you, guys. Later.